my name's Izzy. By the time you're watching this, I will be a soon-to-be third year doing law at Mansfield College, and I am here today to try and give you my top tips on the LNAT. Hopefully this won't be longer than 20 minutes. I have a long list. Okay, so firstly, everyone probably knows the LNAT is 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's made up of 2 parts, so you have 42 multiple choice questions based on 12 passages that you read, and then there's kind of 3 or 4 multiple choice questions on each passage, and then the second part is a 40-minute essay. You get a choice of 3 questions, and it's kind of an argumentative debate style of writing. So I'm going to first talk about the multiple choice, and then secondly talk about the essay. The multiple choice is effectively kind of like if you did reading comprehension papers at primary school. It's effectively like that, but obviously a lot harder. I think the first most important thing is that there's not actually that much you can do to prepare for it, which is obviously quite scary because everyone's used to revising for tests at school and things like that. But it is called the Law National Aptitude Test. It is about natural aptitude. So there's a few things you can probably do to help you and make it a bit easier. You can't revise for it. And that is also a very good thing in terms of kind of removing potential advantages, disadvantages, depending on your school, your background. It's attempting to level the playing field, which should be kind of welcomed by everyone, I think. Okay, second thing, use the software. If you go onto the LNAT website, you can download the software, so it's kind of a simulation of what you'll get when you actually go and do it. And that's really good because you can practice how you flag answers to go back to if you're a bit stuck on them at first, and it just means everything will kind of be a lot easier when you're there. You won't panic because you don't know what you're doing. Just that is like the absolute #1 thing you can do. They have also practice tests online, which again you can do on the simulator. You can download them for free off the website. They are the most accurate representation of what you're going to get in the actual thing, so I would do them, but don't necessarily stress about if you've got a high score or low score because you've never done anything like it before. And similarly, if you know you've got one wrong, do go back and try and figure out where you've gone wrong and how you would actually get the right answer. Do not leave any of them blank. You will probably be able to narrow it down to kind of 2 you're choosing between, so just make an educated guess, and if you can't make an educated guess, then just guess. Like, you're only going to definitely get it wrong if you leave it blank, so absolutely do not do that. I definitely guessed on probably 5 of mine, if I can remember correctly, but like, just don't leave anything blank. Budget your time. That's really, really important. So if you know you've got whatever 2 hours and 15 minutes is minus the 40 minutes from the essay, I can't do the maths, but you know how much time you've got for the multiple choice. Use it all, firstly. You gain nothing by kind of finishing 15 minutes early. Use that time to kind of read through everything and figure out roughly how many minutes you can spend on each passage. In the real thing, you will probably go through some faster and some slower, but at least having an idea of how long is going to really, really benefit you, because it's kind of just all about being prepared and being calm and not accidentally catching yourself out for a reason that actually is something that was really preventable, such as planning your time or not knowing how to use the software. In terms of how you actually approach the questions, I think most people read the passage, look at the questions, and then work out their answer by process of elimination. So you kind of definitely know, well, like, that one isn't right and that one isn't right, so it's probably between these 2, and then looking at kind of more nuance in the text and things like that to try and get the right answer. That might not be what works for you. Some people do it differently, but I think that probably is the approach of most people. And it's quite strategic and like clinical, and it works. So when you do the practice test, maybe try doing it that way, and if you think, no, that doesn't work for me, then do the other practice test and do it a different way. It's kind of all about finding what works for you, but it is good to kind of know the strategy that suits you before you go in. I keep looking down, but I have my list. I think because you get quite a wide variety of kind of writing styles in the passages, So just reading kind of a variety of articles, so something on science and something on politics and something on technology, and just kind of, so then you're used to very different writing styles, so one that's maybe more argumentative, one that's more factual, and just kind of being open to lots of different types of language, so then you're less likely to be presented with something that you think, I don't know what this is talking about. You won't probably find anything they give you in the actual thing. I don't know where they get the passages from, but they're so random. But just, yeah, kind of being familiar, so you're reading beyond what you're doing for your A-levels, and beyond kind of maybe just like mainstream news, and actually making an effort to widen your horizons. Do not buy any how to pass the LNAT books, and do not pay anyone to tutor you in the LNAT. I've said it earlier, but like, it is an aptitude test. Those things are scams. It's a very kind of well protected admissions test in my opinion, because there's not really much you can kind of externally get to help you, and yeah, that is just a waste of your money. The only thing which I think might be of some benefit, and I know a few people did it and I did it a bit, the American LSAT tests, so for what they do to get into law school, I think you can get them free online or you can buy the books. They are absolutely the closest you will get to what you get in the LNAT, although I think they're harder, and again, they're still not exactly the same. So by all means, try them if you want to do them, but they're very difficult, and I don't know how much it actually did help me in the end. Probably not that much. But if you don't do it, I also know a lot of people who didn't do it. But that is the closest parallel you can probably draw, but not something to stress about. And especially if you're like, oh, this is really, really difficult. They are really, really difficult and a lot harder than the LNAT. In terms of when you do your practice test and you get your score, so if you're looking specifically at Oxford, you're generally like half, so what's that, 21-ish is like a good score, but they also take the median from that year of what the scores are, because sometimes they'll be a bit harder. So I think the median the year I did it was only like 18 or 19. I know people that got in with scores of 15. I also know people who got 35. Most people hover around that median mark, but it's not, that number is not a make or break thing. It's so much part of this kind of holistic picture that is built up, and we'll probably see more about in other parts of the open day. But it's really, really not something to stress about, because also it's only even one part of the whole LNAT. So that number is not going to define whether you get a place or not. Obviously, if you do really well, then great. Obviously, if you do less well, don't stress about it. Also, you won't know your score for the LNAT until like way after you find out if you've got in or not. So by that point, it's kind of quite redundant. Like, I found out mine when I had all of my university offers back, and it just was kind of like, well, okay. So yeah, not something to stress about. I think that is everything. So we will move on to the essay. I think with the essay, there's quite a common misconception of, oh, the essay doesn't matter. Of course they're not going to read the essay, it's not important. That is not true. They will read the essay and they will mark the essay. I actually ended up, one of my tutors was one of the people who read my essay in the admissions process, and they do mark it, and they kind of mark it to university level. So I think he told me I got a 2-2 or something, which apparently wasn't very good, but I still got in. So it is really, really important, because they are definitely going to look at it and they're going to read it, because that is also, like, your personal statement is obviously an example of your writing, but that is going to have been refined and edited and things like that. It's an example of kind of how you write and how you argue. But similarly, like in my case, if you get quite an average mark, it doesn't matter, because they'll also look at the potential in your writing that they see, and they'll combine it with the score and things like that. But the number one thing is, don't dismiss it. Kind of use it, I guess, as a chance to show off. Like, if you're applying for law, you probably know that you can argue well, and you enjoy doing that, and you enjoy kind of looking at nuance and kind of analysing text. So just think, well, this is obviously what I really enjoy doing, So I'm going to show the tutors how good at it I am. Structure is so important. So it doesn't matter how simple or complicated your argument is, if your structure is bad, that's going to really undermine your argument. So go into it with a rough idea of how you're going to structure it. Obviously this might change a bit depending on the question that you choose, but when you plan what you're going to write, and make sure your structure is really watertight. So obviously you're kind of going to be arguing for your opinion, but that doesn't mean you ignore the potential counter arguments, because that will just make a very weak argument, and actually it's more than just a persuasive piece of writing rather than a debate. So do recognise the counter arguments and do address them, and find a structure that you think works really well for that. Whether that's just an introduction, and then you kind of have 3 points that you think support your argument, and for each of those points that support it, you maybe recognise a counter argument and then explain why it's wrong. That is one way you could do it. But yeah, your structure is absolutely key. I think actually one thing that's really good about the essay part is you can just get people to, your teachers, your parents, your siblings, your friends, just to make up questions for you so you can keep practicing. You can obviously look on the LNAT website at the style of questions they give you, and then just generate lots and lots of them, and keep just being presented with unfamiliar questions and having to do something timed. And also you could even just kind of sit and debate with your friends. I think I know a few people who, there are a couple of them applying for law like in their tutor group, so they would pick a topic in their tutor group in the morning and they would just sit and debate it, and even just engaging with ideas in that way is something that's really good. Looking again at the software online, so knowing kind of what the space that you're going to be typing in is like, and also the LNAT software doesn't have like spell check, or it doesn't check your grammar. So if you're then going to practice tests not on the software, because obviously there's only 2 practice tests, turn off your spell check and your grammar check. So because that is an important thing, like it's not, they're not going to like not give you a place because you spelled something wrong, but it is kind of all about creating that really big picture and showing you're able, which you most definitely are. So don't rely on Word picking up your little typos and things, because that's what it always does when you're not going to have that in the real thing. You need to be checking your typos and making sure you haven't missed things and making sure things still make sense. In terms of choosing your question, I would try and avoid something that's really controversial, because it will be a really interesting one to have, but you also don't want to accidentally offend someone who's reading your essay. So if you are looking at something and it is potentially controversial, but you still decide you want to do it, just be really mindful and really conscious, because you don't want to offend the person who's potentially going to give you an interview or not. I think there's probably quite a few questions that come up that are controversial, but sometimes I've seen some on the practice test and just thought, I don't think I would answer that. So pick something interesting, but something that is relatively inoffensive. I think that's probably it for the essay section. There's just a lot more you can do, and just a lot more debating and writing and arguing, so you feel more confident with that when you go into the test. The number one thing to remember is that it is part of a bigger picture, and it's this big holistic picture of kind of looking at you as a candidate as a whole. So your GCSEs, your A-levels, your personal statement, your reference. It's not going to make or break whether you get a place, where you get a place. It is just a thing that happens. Do not stress about it, do not lose sleep over it, do not cry about it. Once you have done it, move on and forget about it. That is exactly what I did, which is why now trying to make this video 3 years later was actually quite difficult, because it's kind of out of your mind. The only time I think I've ever spoken to people about the LNAT is making this video, or for like other Access events, to remind ourselves what it's like so we can give advice. It just does not matter. And like I said, I know people at Oxford with a score of 15 on the LNAT and a score of 35 on the LNAT, both equally doing very well. So it really is not, it's not important. It obviously is important, but it's not that kind of defining feature of your application. just try and stay calm, do your best, read everything carefully, remember that you are definitely capable, everyone is capable of doing well. You just have to breathe and calm and just think logically and strategically. I hope this has been useful. I hope I haven't missed anything, but if I have, I'm sure there is someone you can ask, and good luck with your applications.